what an epic football game. Number 7, Georgia beats Georgia Tech 44-42 in 8 overtimes. I find it weird counting every 2-point conversion as an overtime, but whatever. I guess that's what we do now. Georgia Tech outgained Georgia. Haynes King was a monster. You and I were saying that if he's not healthy, you got to go with Aaron Philo. And Brent Key said he's healthy. He's going to go. Obviously, Haynes King was beat up throughout the game, but he was throwing it pretty well. You had every chance in the world back. And there's so many different things we can talk about with this game, and feel free to go wherever. I just want to ask you this question. And this is kind of going back to the discussions we've been having. When you score at the end of regulation and you're Georgia Tech and Haynes King is beat up, he's been targeted, which wasn't called. Your secondary's dropping like flies, right? Jamal Haynes was limping off the field at one point. Why don't you go for 2? You're on the road. You're in this hostile environment. All these types of things. I'm not a coach, and hindsight's 2020. I think I would have gone for 2 in that situation.
I would 100% too. That was right. That was the last touchdown to get it to overtime.
It was the touchdown that tied it up, and Brent Key immediately put one finger up, like he wasn't even thinking about it. He was like, "We're going, let's go to overtime." Right. I just thought that was odd.
Yeah. I think I for sure go to 2, and I can't remember. I'm assuming that was the last one to go to overtime, but there might even have been another one where maybe they had to go to 2 after that. Anyway, I would have gone for 2, 1,000%. Walk it off. There's no expectation. Your team's tired. This team has all the momentum, rallying back, scoring, 21 points in the fourth quarter. Let's do it right now. And again, understanding the format, if we do go back and forth, you need 27,000 2-point plays. Let's just use the great one right now. Let's use it. Let's use that one.
Mac,
and so
I understand why you were okay. You're right. The end of the game, the end of regulation was Georgia scored. Georgia Tech couldn't score. I'm talking about the first overtime. That's what we're talking about here. Georgia scores, kicks the extra point. Georgia Tech matches, go for 2. That's what we're referring to.
So it's the first overtime. Yes.
Yeah, right.
That's what I thought it was. I totally agree. In the game, you don't get it. So it's all good. It's all good. I think you go all for it, but still, I mean, they were that close. I mean, it looked like an okay decision, but I just let's get the momentum that we have. Let's try to salvage it all and make it happen there. I thought there was a bunch of crazy things, and honestly, I hate, in the moment I for sure was doing it, but I hate relying and blaming referees, but that was a blatant targeting. I mean, his head's down.
There were some terrible calls.
Contact. Yeah, just really, really weird. And it felt like this really suspicious timing. But again, I don't want to take away from any of that. So anyway, at the end of the day, unbelievable effort by Georgia Tech. We had a really good suspicion that it would end up kind of like this. They ran the ball all over those dogs, 260 yards. And again, Haynes King, a warrior. The toughest dude, maybe in college football, for sure toughest quarterback. 300 yards with a bum shoulder. I don't know how he got to that point, but he did. 110 rushing yards, 3 rushing TDs, 5 total TDs. Put it all out there on the line. And it's going to be fascinating to see what Georgia Tech does next year and what this quarterback situation ends up being. Because you got a guy that probably super confident, walked off a game winner, thinking he should play right now. And you also have a really savvy vet that's good. And I think he reminded everybody how good he is. It was a little up and down this year because of injury and because of availability. But he's a baller. So my biggest thing, advice-wise, Aaron Philo, be patient. Take your time. If old buddy at Texas can do that, Arch Manning, surely you can do that. So we'll see. It's going to be a fascinating thing, KG, but we'll see. We'll see. Great game. Major shout out. Do have to give props for Georgia again. I'm about to throw up doing all this SEC propaganda, but the fact that they came storming back 21 points in the fourth quarter, that's some championship DNA to be able to do that. And it was impressive, to say the least.
Georgia's the most inconsistent. They're the most inconsistent, most talented team in the country. I guess that's the way to put it. Yeah. And Georgia Tech just didn't have enough to close it out. I felt for Brent Key. I mean, obviously, in the end, once he's further removed from this game, he'll be able to realize what they did and how much of a building block this can be for his program. But he had, it's just, oh, I feel for him. I know
Yeah,
he's going to be thinking about that game every
for
day for
sure.
the next
No,
however many days.
hey,
But he
let me just
also,
tell you, I
go
texted
ahead.
him after the game, and yeah, I mean that dude. It probably felt honestly like he just got done with a fight. I mean that's
Yeah.
probably what it mentally, physically, what it felt like.
Yeah. And I think we already knew this, but he showed even more people that he is the guy for Georgia Tech. Like there's no one else that needs to be coaching Georgia Tech but Brent Key. All right, man.
Here's the deal: Georgia Tech, you better ante up and you better pay him
Yeah.
because if not, he's gonna be the guy somewhere else. Because
Yeah.
he is a great coach. He will be. I don't know. I don't think there's any real threat, kind of right now. But it's early and some jobs might open. He'll be on the top of a list for a lot of people. So
Sure.
ante it up, ante it up, and this is going to be fun too, KG, because I think there's some cool opportunity for us to really kind of preview, or just like a distant preview for next year that we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. The ACC has some promise. If we can
Mm.
keep some of these players, some of these coaches, next year's going to be really, really fun, and we'll talk about that later. But it's going to be cool.
Also, Georgia Tech fans, we see you. We see you wanting some more Georgia
Mark
Tech content. So we
that.
got you. We can give you that. We can provide.